I know some, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay. See, the first thing that you will require to do is memorize the names of elements till 20, from hydrogen till calcium. Okay. After that, we also need to understand uh, that what are the symbols that we use. What are the symbols that we use? Consider, for example, a very simple compound. Compound, you understand the compound, elements, all these terms. Compound is formed as a combination of two different elements. When two different elements would be combining, a compound is formed, right? For example, consider you have sodium. You have sodium and you have calcium. Sorry, chlorine, I mean to say. You have sodium and chlorine. Now, when these two different elements would be combining, sodium is an element, chlorine is also an element. When these two will come together, it will form a compound. And also the symbol that we use for sodium is Na, capital N and small a. Getting it now?
Yeah.
Then for chlorine, it is capital C and a small l. So for chlorine, we are using the first two letters as a symbol, but the symbol of the sodium is simply Na. Why? Because the Latin name of the sodium was earlier, earlier the language of the science was Latin. Many, many years ago, all the scientific works were done in the Latin language. The sodium back then was known as natrium. How was it known?
Nitrium.
Natrium. So thereby we took the first two letters Na, and that was the symbol. So we first have to write down the symbols of the two, Na and Cl. Also, it's not like any two given metals can react with one another. Okay, no? So the sodium and chlorine basically reacts with one another and it forms NaCl, which is basically called as now sodium chloride. What do we call this as? Sodium chloride. And this sodium chloride is nothing but basically the common salt that we consume. What is this? The common salt. Getting it so far?
Yeah.
So when they reacted with one another, hence a reaction took place and this compound was formed here. So that is how a compound is formed. So hope that much of the basic should be clear to you.
Yeah.
Right? So the first thing that you will do, okay, whenever you get the free time, make sure to memorize the names of elements till 20. All the from hydrogen till calcium. You have the periodic table now, I suppose you must be having.
Yeah.
Okay, so memorize that thing. Okay. Another thing you will need to understand that what are the different subatomic particles present in a given element, even in a given atom, I mean to say. For example, you have any given atom. Let us say we have the atom of sodium. Also, we need to know like at what is its position in the periodic table. So first you have
Mm.
hydrogen, and you have helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, then you have neon, and then you have sodium. So what its number starting from hydrogen? It's at the 11th position, I guess, right? Count
Yeah.
it from here. So it's 11 right now.
Yeah.
How is it why is it kept at the 11th position? Ibrahim, we will get back to the topic in just 1 minute. Okay, no? By the way, how are you doing? So it is good. Now it is kept at the 11th position, or any given element is given a certain position in the certain number in the periodic table because of the number of protons in it has in it. Okay, na? So sodium, when you look at the atom of the sodium, in its nucleus, how many protons will it have? So it has, sorry, 11 protons here in this one. Getting it now? It has 11 protons, although it has neutrons also. So it has 11 protons. So the number of protons describes its position in a periodic table. Got it? And it will have 11 electrons in this also. Near the nucleus, in the orbit of the sodium atom, it will have 11 electrons. Getting it now? So if a given atom, like in this case, sodium has 11 protons and 11 electrons, so thereby its number is 11 in the periodic table. Getting a little idea about this thing?
Yeah.
Okay. That is one thing. Further, if you recall, like few months ago or few weeks ago, I suppose, we had some extra class where you and Chipika were present. There I did told you about the electronic configuration and all that. We learned a little
Yeah.
bit of that, right? And we learned about the octet and the duplet rules, right? No?
Yeah.
Basically, an atom would be in the happiest state if in its outermost orbit it has either two electrons or either it has how many?
Um.
Eight.
8. Yeah.
So consider that this right over here has how many electrons? One and two, suppose. Let me use a different color. This is a two electrons. Right now we are drawing it for sodium, okay now? This is for
Okay.
sodium. Total electrons in the sodium will be how much?
2
Total I'm asking.
or total. I
11,
know.
no?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
its atomic number is 11, so it will have 11 electrons too.
Yeah.
So we are going to arrange it. Electronic configuration basically tells us about the arrangement of the electrons around the nucleus. Okay. So in the second orbit, as per the 2n square rule, remember, in the first
Mm-hmm.
shell, two electrons are
2
going to be put.
electrons.
In the second cell,
4.
not four, it will be more than that. No? And value of n in the second shell, you'll be
Oh.
putting it as two. So 2 times
Yeah.
2 is square, meaning that 2
Yeah.
times 2 square is equal to how much?
2 times 2 is.
Yes, Ibrahim. You guys have done the exponent chapters, no? In the maths exponents you have learned, no? 2 times
Yeah.
2 square. 2 square will be how much? 4, no? So 2 times 4 will be
4
8.
n square.
8. Getting it?
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 already goes to the first shell. Now in the second shell, we are going to put how many? Total 8. Okay. So 2 plus 8, 10. One electron is still left now because total electron in sodium is 11. So one goes to the outermost orbit now. But here's the problem. The atom is not in a happy state. It is not satisfied. So what it will do? It will get rid of this extra atom. Getting it, Harim,
Yeah.
right now? So what it will do now? It will be losing it. So if an atom loses the electron, what do we know, Ibrahim? If an atom loses the electron, yes, Harim, does it become cation or anion? Does it become positively charged or negatively charged?
Becomes negatively charged.
No, it is losing now.
Oh yeah, it becomes positively charged.
On top of its head, we will write down +1. That's for sodium. Now, right next to the sodium atom, let us suppose you have the chlorine. And the atomic number of chlorine is 17 in the periodic table. It is at the 70th position, okay?
Hmm.
So as per the 2n square rule, 2 electrons goes to the first shell and 8 goes to the second shell. Tell me if you are getting it or getting confused.
No,
2
no,
plus
I'm
8 is
getting it.
10, no? Good. And in the
Hmm.
outermost, 7 electrons will go now because
Yeah.
chlorine in total it has 17 electrons. So in the outermost goes 7. But will it be satisfied? Because the octet rule says that an atom will be satisfied, will be in a stable state if it has either 2 or 8 electrons in the outermost orbit. So what if this electron goes on to the outer orbit of the chlorine?
Yeah.
What will happen then?
It
So
will
then
be satisfied.
it will be satisfied. In fact, both of them will be satisfied now because now it
Yeah.
has got rid of that electron and this has now got it. So thereby, 8 electrons are on the outermost orbit, and this one too has 8 electrons in the outermost orbit. This one is now the outermost orbit of this. Getting it now?
Yeah.
So chlorine was getting 1 electron. So if a given atom gains the electron, it becomes negatively or positively charged.
It becomes negatively charged.
Negatively, yeah. So chlorine has, since it has gained, sorry, since it has gained 1 electron, so it will have 1 minus charge. Now, to make the formula, to make the formula, this one is brought to the foot of chlorine. So we write 1 over here. Okay.
I have
And
a
this,
question.
yes, tell me.
So, atom has four like covers, right?
Not necessarily it will have four. It depends upon the size of the atom and how many
Yeah, like
electrons.
maximum has four.
No, it can be more than that also.
Okay, but I have this question. In the K, like the first orbit,
Hmm.
it can only have two atoms. In
Exactly.
the L orbit, it can
Mm.
only have eight atoms.
Yes.
In the M orbit, it can go up to 18 atoms. And then
Mm.
in N, it can go up to 32 atoms, right?
Yes.
But I remember hearing something like this. Like
Hmm.
in M atoms, it can't go above like eight electrons.
Yes, it can go. It can go. And when we take a look at certain certain examples, in fact, we have discussed this in the class that uh, in the M it does not goes beyond 8. Why? Because it needs to satisfy the duplet rule. Sorry, octet rule. Getting it now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the M shell of an electron, it cannot accommodate more than 8 electrons because it needs to fulfill the duplet octet rule. Getting it now?
Yeah.
So octet rule basically states that an atom with 8 electron in the outermost shell will be stable. So even if the cell has the capacity to hold more electrons, it does not hold more than 8 electrons. It's like it has the capacity. Going by the formula, K has 2, it has 8. Okay, it will be having 18 K L M, and the N can accommodate 32. But it does not does so because having 8 electron makes it stable. Getting back to this topic now, okay, now
Mm.
we make the formula out of this now. So this one is brought to the foot of sodium and this one is brought to the foot of chlorine. Now since they are same numbers now, so we will cancel them and that will be simply written as NaCl. That's how the formula is formed. This was a very simple example. Getting it, Harim?
Yeah.
Okay. So once I'll be scheduling some classes for you, there I will be discussing that with many more examples. Hope you have understood the different things we have done today.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So in the batch, which chapter were we revising? Yes, Ibrahim. Reproduction animals was done, right? Chemical effects of lactic acid, I believe we have done that too, isn't it, Ibrahim?
Yes, sir.
So we have done that, and we had done some questions from that also, right? Did we did these questions? 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th? I suppose we have done that. So today we are going to start the revision of a new chapter. So Harim, you have missed some of the chapters in the batch as you joined the batch later on. So let me
Yeah.
just get it. So which chapter you'd like to do, or just let me get a look at which chapters you have missed first.
Okay.
1 minute. So conservation of plants and animals. So that you have missed. Okay. Apart from that, you were there in all the other chapters. Okay. So conservation of plants and animals, you have missed that. Okay. This conservation of plants and animals, did it came in the term one exams of any one of you? You,
Can
Ibrahim?
you repeat, please?
The chapter conservation of plants and animals, was it there in the term one exam?
No.
It was not. Ibrahim, what about you?
No, sir.
No. Okay, it was not there for you as well. Okay. So in your school, you are having chemical effects of electric current, and you have human reproductive system. Then you have about fuels. Then you have, as you can see here, you have carbon and fuels, right? Hydrogen and water, static electricity. Hania, I did ask you to share the topics from these chapters. You haven't shared it still? try to try to make time for
Hydrogen.
it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, no. So
Yeah.
make sure that you share it to the counselor. So we need to schedule the classes very soon. Okay, no.
Okay.
It's on 18th of February. By the end of the January, I'll be scheduling the class for you
Okay.
before the end. Okay.
Okay.
So let me just discuss some questions from this, and then we are going to continue. All right. Starting from you, Harim, tell me what are some of the applications of chemical effects of electric current?
Applications, like in what sense?
Applications like where do we use this? We have applications of heating effect of electric current now.
Yeah.
We use that
Yeah,
in
yeah.
electric irons, in geysers, and incandescent bulb like that. By the way, both of you turn your cameras on in the class.
I can't actually turn on because I'm using my phone.
Okay, no issue then. Continue.
Okay. So like the wait, what was your question again?
Question was what are the applications of chemical effects of electric current?
Chemical effects
Hmm.
of electric current.
Yes.
Um, co- like we can do perform electrolysis with them.
Okay, we do electrolysis. Okay, but
Yeah.
in in which areas we are using it? Like
In areas of um in most
electroplating.
um, yeah, electroplating and like separating the ions.
Okay, decomposition of a compound, we can say breaking a given
Yeah.
compound into its constituents. Can you quote
Yeah.
example for each of it? For electroplating and for decomposition of a compound, breakdown of a
Okay.
compound.
So for electroplate plating, we can use the example of we wear like the jewelries who are coated with the gold but are not the gold.
Good.
So it's basically coated by the process of electrolysis when like the jewelry is made from a rather cheap item like for example copper, and then it's plated with gold to make it look more realistic.
Good. Also, we cannot use 100% pure gold because
Yeah.
it is soft and very
Yes.
malleable. So we
Maybe.
take a cheap metal and over which the electroplating of gold is done. Okay.
Mm.
So Harim, tell me if you are supposed to do an electroplating. Okay. So
Mhm.
which electrode will be made as the anode? Which material will be made as anode? Which one will be made as cathode?
The material which I am like plating.
Hmm.
Okay. I don't know that. The
Okay. Okay, we'll revisit that. Ibrahim, you tell me.
It can be used in extraction of ores
Hmm.
and electroplating, like adding a layer to a cheap metal to make it look shinier and more newer,
Good.
and
And to
also like
prevent it from continue.
rusting, and also like rusting.
Prevent it from rusting. Prevent it from corrosion. Okay. One question goes to both of you. Once again, I'm saying that the metal that will be used for electroplating, that is made anode or cathode. Ibrahim, you answer it particularly.
Sir, can you repeat the question?
The material that will be used for electroplating. Suppose you have to do a plating of copper over the brass. So copper here is the material that we are going to use for electroplating for carrying out the experiment, right? So the copper or the brass, which one will be made the anode? I think we need
Brass.
to discuss this. No, we need to discuss this once again. See, continue from here, both of you listen. Harim, you particularly pay attention here. See, chemical effects of electric current has various applications. Okay, now, and what is chemical effect? That whenever electric current passes through a conducting solution, some chemical reactions takes place in this solution, and that's the chemical effect of electric current, and which can be visible in various ways. Following observations can be made whenever a chemical effect will occur. Either all of them can be observed or some of them can be observed at one time. For example, in this one, metals are depositing from one rod to another. So deposition of metal is one such observation, right? And it has some applications too. Then there will be evolution of gas bubbles near the electrodes. So that is also one such observation of chemical effect. Then if you were to take a slice of potato and connect one of the wires, so it turns bluish green where the wire is connected. So color change is also one such observation. Talking about the applications, it is used for extraction of metal from their ores, to purify an impure sample of a metal, for production of new compounds, for breaking down of a given compound. Compound here basically a substance, or for electroplating as well. In the case of electroplating, what we have learned that if we have taken a copper rod and we need to apply a layer of copper over the brass. The first thing we need to make sure that you have taken the right type of electrodes. Since you need to do a deposition of copper over the brass, so one of the rod has to be copper, another one has to be a brass. That is very obvious, right? That's the first thing. Next, you need to ensure that you have taken the right type of electrolyte. What does right type of electrolyte mean here? It basically means that the metal that is going to be used for electroplating, here in this case, it's copper. So that electrolyte should contain copper in it. So which electrolyte we have taken? We have taken copper sulfate in it. Tell me if that much is clear so far.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Good. Now, as the process of electrolysis will start in this, so thereby copper sulfate is going to break down as electricity flows through this. So thereby copper sulfate is going to break down into the copper ions and sulfate ions. The first ion is always positive. By convention, keep this in mind. So copper is positive, sulfate is negative. Also, one important thing, the question which I had asked earlier to you guys, that which one is made the anode? I mean to say, which one is connected to the positive terminal of the battery? So the one that is used for electroplating. Which metal is being used here for electroplating?
Copper.
Copper. So that is made the anode by connecting it to the positive terminal. Always keep this in mind, okay? Ibrahim and Harim, both of you. Okay. Then the material over which the deposition of metal has to be done, that is always made cathode. Okay. Now, why it is being done so? It will be very obvious once you understand discussion over here. So once the copper sulfate breaks down into copper and sulfate, copper is positive, right? So copper will go towards the negatively charged electrode now. The cathode now. Which one is the cathode here?
The brass.
Brass now. So positive is attracted towards the negative now. That's why the material over which coating has to be done is made cathode. So it will attract the cations. In this case, it's the copper. If we were to have done the opposite, will the process work out? If this were to be made the anode, suppose, if the brass rod were to be made the anode, okay, na? So brass rod would be positive. Will it attract the positive copper ions?
No,
Yes.
sir.
Harim, what about you? That is correct,
No.
by the way, Ibrahim. It will not attract them because positive will be repelling one another. That is the reason why they are connected to so and so terminals of the battery. Also, we will see that the copper from this anode will also break away. It will little by little break away, will just go into the electrolyte and then further will be deposited. That's why you will see that the when the process will be carried out, the copper rod will become thinner as the metals from the copper rod goes onto the brass. So that's the process of electroplating, and it has various applications, as in the jewelry making, as you were saying. Then chromium would be used to get a lustrous appearance. Okay, no. Then galvanization is done to prevent the corrosion of iron, and in the medical field also, coating of gold or platinum is done over the nickel. So nickel is used in the medical field as it is corrosion free. It does not corrode easily, right? It is durable. But the problem is that the direct contact of the nickel with the body could be harmful. So thereby we do a coating of gold or platinum over it. Then the tin cans which are used for the packaging of the food. Earlier, like 50, 60 years ago, tin cans were the widely used materials for the storage of the food. The soldiers who went to the wars, they got the packaged food, they got the packaged ration for that could last for several years. Okay, no? So those food packages were stored back then in the tin cans only. That is the case. Ibrahim, you explain to me how is purification of metal done. You can take the reference of this diagram. Purification of metal, basically electrolytic refining. Electrolytic refining is also an application of chemical effect. No? So go on to describe this. How is the process carried out? Harim, have you learned about this?
Yeah.
You have. Okay, so you will also be answering this. In the
But
next
we
class, continue.
but we haven't done it like, pure and impure state of any metal.
Okay.
Mm.
Electrolytic refining basically means removing the impurities from a given impure sample of a metal rod. Uh, Refining basically means getting rid of the impure materials here.
Yeah, but we have done it with different metals.
Okay, which one? Tell me.
Like, for example, copper and silver or copper gold. Not the same material, but in the impure state and the pure state.
Okay. See, the thing is that when electrolytic refining is done, so two samples of same metal object is taken. But you are saying that you have you have learned about electrolytic refining done between two different metal objects, right?
Yeah. Oh, never mind. No, no, no. We didn't do it. We didn't do it. No, I got confused in between
Okay.
plating and electrolysis.
Yeah, that's a different thing. Now. Like you're depositing one metal over another metal object. Okay. Okay. So see, we have the copper rods at both the places. Yes, Ibrahim. Are you going to explain this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So the impure metal is used like an anode, and the pure copper plate is used as a cathode, and the impurities of the thick copper rod, it dissolves in the electrolyte solution, and then the rest is deposited to the pure copper strip, and the impurities are left in the electrolyte.
Okay. And it basically settles down just beneath the impure sample of the rod, impure copper rod as anode mud. Okay. So let me just clean it out. Okay. That's fine. See, the process is carried out in the following manner, Harim and Ibrahim. You have explained it very well, Ibrahim. Good. So first, we take an impure sample of the copper rod, right now. So impure copper rod is made anode by connecting it to the positive terminal. Keep this fact in mind. This is very important. Impure metal rod is always made the anode, while they will be taking a thin strip of pure copper rod. A thin strip of the pure copper rod has been taken, as you guys can see here. As the process of electrolysis will start here, so also we have taken a copper sulfate solution, keeping this in mind that the electrolyte should have the same metal which has to be purified. Copper has to be purified here, no? So the electrolyte must have copper in it. So we have taken copper sulfate solution, that is CuSO4. So far clear now? The impure copper rod has been made anode. A thin pure sample of copper plate has been made the cathode, and you have taken the electrolyte here as copper sulfate. Keeping this thing in consideration that the electrolyte should have the same metal that has to be purified. Now, as the process has started, so the electrolytes has broken down into copper and sulfate ions. Also, you see that this impure copper metal here is getting thinner. So what is happening? The copper is getting detached from it. Copper is breaking away from this, and copper will be positive now. Metals are always positive. Copper is a metal now, so metal ions are always positive. So copper being positive is attracted towards the cathode, basically the pure thin strip of copper. And you can see how the impures rod is becoming thinner and impurities are settling down below this. That will be called as anode mud, by the way. And this cathode, which is the pure strip of copper, is becoming thicker. So that is how the refining is done. So we have basically got rid of the impurities from this one. It has settled down at the bottom. Tell me if that is clear, Harim.
Yeah.
Okay, now? Good. So which metal sample is made as anode? The impure or pure metal?
Can you repeat?
Yes. Which metal sample is used as the anode? The impure
The
sample or the pure sample?
the pure sample.
Okay. And the electrolyte should have which metal in it? Which metal should be there in the electrolyte? Like for example, if
Um,
you're doing the refining of copper, so electrolyte should have copper or silver or aluminum. What should it have?
should have copper.
Copper in it. Okay, no? Good. Ibrahim, any update regarding your exams? You have got the date sheet or the syllabus or not?
Got the date sheet.
Okay, did you share it with the counselor?
No, sir.
Okay, tell me. By the way, Harim, you don't have that chapter cell structure and functions, no, as you told me, I think.
No.
You don't have. Good. Yes, Ibrahim, tell me the syllabus quickly.
I have reproduction in animals and reaching the age of adolescence.
So reproduction in animals and reaching age of adolescence. Only these two.
Yes, sir.
When is the exam? Tell me the exam date also.
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday. Okay. I will be sending you a mock paper for this. Okay, no? And you will be required to answer those questions, prepare a PDF and send it to the counselor. I will check it and we will discuss that. Okay. All right. Harim, it seems like you are having some difficulty. You might be having some difficulty, I suppose, in this chapter. So I'm going to ask some questions to you once more. Explain to me, what do you understand by electrolysis? Explain to me what is electrolysis. Next, you will explain to me, Ibrahim. Where did she go? Okay. Ibrahim, you explain to me what is electrolysis.
Sorry, I left a meeting by mistake.
Okay, no issue. Yeah, Harim, you explain to me what
Oh,
is electrolysis.
electrolysis. Um, it's the process of separating two types of ions.
Okay.
The negative ion, the positive ion.
Okay. Like, tell me the definition, that if this question were to be asked in the exam and you will be writing such definition in the exam. So in that manner, explain to me that what do you understand by electrolysis? Although you're saying
Uh,
it correct, but construct it in a proper manner.
okay.
Mhm. Like you can say that electrolysis is a process, it's a phenomenon that uses the electricity, or you can go on to explain it in the following manner, that electrolysis is a process in which, due to the passage of electricity through a conducting liquid, it breaks up into its components, namely the cations and the anions, like that. Getting it?
Yeah.
Like this, we can go on to explain. Okay, you guys explain what is an electrolyte. Explain to me what do you understand by an electrolyte and give some of the examples of strong electrolyte. Yes. Electrolytes, we have discussed that.
Should we answer in chat box?
No, in the class only.
Okay. Can I answer?
Start.
So it's basically a substance that contains iron and can be decomposed by electrolysis.
Can be decomposed by electrolysis. Good. Okay. So give some examples also. Give some examples of strong electrolytes. Like
Tap,
that will be a very, yes,
tap water,
tap water. Tap water, but take some strong electrolytes particularly. Tap water is an electrolyte, but not very strong. Remember, if you were to add some acid or some salt or some base in the water, so that makes it a strong electrolyte. So if you were to have hydrochloric acid and add this in water, so that will become a strong electrolyte. Or if you were to take a strong base, can you guys quote an example of a strong base? Yes, we have sodium hydroxide. Okay, now, so if you have sodium hydroxide and you were to mix it with water, so that will make it a strong electrolyte. Getting it? Or you can make the, you can prepare the solution of the common salt also, and that will also be a strong electrolyte. Okay, now, that is the case. So electrolyte is basically any given substance in its aqueous state will break up into ions when electricity is passed through this. I'm saying that any given substance, like for example, you have the NaCl solution. NaCl solution, basically that is salt solution. So this is an electrolyte. It fits into the definition of electrolyte, which says that any given substance, when dissolve in water, when in its aqueous state, dissolve basically breaks up into charged particles called as ions. So that is an electrolyte. So it will split up into Na plus and Cl minus ions, into the cations and the anions. So thereby this is an electrolyte over here. Okay. That is the case. So it's a substance in its liquid state. Always keep this in mind that it should be in the liquid state. That will break into components, that is ions, when electricity passes through it. Okay. It is also correct to say, Harim, that it contains ions in it. Okay. That is the case. Now you guys tell me, kerosene oil is a good conductor. Will it be a strong electrolyte, or will it be electrolyte or not? Just tell me this. Kerosene oil. Yes. Kerosene oil, is it an electrolyte? It is not electrolyte. It is a non-electrolyte. All the fuels are non-electrolytes. Keep that in mind. Okay. What about the sugar solution? Is sugar solution electrolyte?
It is an electrolyte.
Sugar solution is not electrolyte. Okay, na? Getting it. The sugar solution is also not an electrolyte. Keep that fact in mind. Okay. So although we see that a given sample of water, for example, or given liquid, if it has impurities, it will, we say that it will be an electrolyte, but it is not mandatory in every case. Like sugar solution, it has impurities in it. Okay, no? Though it is a bad conductor of electricity. All right. Now from the human reproductive system, we are going to do some questions. Okay. So first of all, Harim, you answer to me. What are the different modes of reproduction seen in the animals? What are the different modes of reproduction?
sexual and asexual.
Sexual and asexual. Good. What are the different types of asexual reproduction in the case of animals or basically in organisms, Harim?
Haven't learned on this topic.
Okay, no issues. Ibrahim?
Budding, fermentation,
Hmm.
fragmentation, binary fission.
Binary fission. There could be multiple fissions also, right? Okay, so these are some of the examples. Good. So basically, in the chapter we had learned various things like what is reproduction, why is it important, and what is its significance and importance basically. So first explain to me, you guys explain to me, what do you understand by reproduction and what is its significance? Yes, what is reproduction and what is its significance?
Answer. Can I try?
Mhm. Mhm.
Reproduction is basically the process in which we reproduce, and it's significant as without reproduction, we won't be able to, oh, what's that word? We won't be able to reproduce, and there won't be any species like us.
Okay, okay. Wha- uh, okay, Ibrahim. Okay, see, reproduction is basically a biological process by which an organism would be giving birth to offsprings of the same kind, of the same species, right now. So organism is a biological process by which living organism produces offsprings of the same species, right? That is one thing. And there are different types of reproduction, two modes of reproduction. You have asexual reproduction, in which an organism reproduces without the help of another organism. Right now, there's only one parent. Then you have sexual reproduction, which involves the involvement of genetic materials between two organisms. Basically, it involves the meeting of the gamete cells, the sex cells, respectively sperm and ovum. So sperm cells are produced in the male body, ovum is produced in the female body. So two parents are involved in sexual reproduction. That is the case. Then talking about the significance of reproduction, right? So significance of reproduction is such that, first of all, it is important for the survival of that species. Reproduction ensures that the species continues to exist on Earth and does not becomes extinct. It also leads to evolution, right now. Reproduction would be creating variations through the combination of the genetic materials of two organisms of the same species. And that increases the chances of survival also. Okay. That is one thing. Further, reproduction is important to maintain the size of the population, and it also uh, is important in maintaining the ecological balance in the nature as well. So these are the significance of reproduction. Getting it, both of you?
Yeah.
Okay. In which organisms? Tell me. Here you have an example of amoeba. On the other hand, you have the example of a sheep. So when an amoeba will do reproduction and a sheep will go through reproduction, the offspring of which one will be identical to the parent?
Amoeba.
In the amoeba, it will be identical, right?
Yeah.
So identical organisms are born in this one. And that in the case of the sheep, they will be genetically variant. They will be showing variation. Okay, so genetic variation is observed in the case of sexual reproduction where two parents are involved. Okay. I'm asking these questions as you guys are having your upcoming exams. Okay. You guys also having Ibrahim, you have age of adolescence also, no? So from that chapter, tell me about some of the glands and their functions. What are the different types of glands in the human body, and what are their different functions? Harim, I have questions for you also. You tell me, explain the process of fertilization in humans. Okay, Harim?
Yeah. Should I like answer in the chat box or?
No, no, in the class only. Answering there will take lots of time now. Typing
Oh,
will take time.
okay. So fertilization occurs when two human cells called gamete fuses and forms an organism, which is the offspring.
Okay, like you can go into the details, like what basically happens.
Um, uh,
The sperm
the
cells will
and
be
then
traveling to the, like, let me give you some hints. Like you can go on to mention about fallopian tube and ovary and
oh, okay,
like that.
okay. So a female, she goes through the ovulation cycle,
Hmm.
okay, in which there is a egg released, like a single egg from the fallopian tube, and then if the fertilization occurs, the egg is attached to the walls of the uterus, and if it
Okay.
doesn't occur, and if the fertilization doesn't occur, then it sheds with the lining of the uterus.
Okay. Good. Just one important thing to be considered, that there what is happening, that as the sperm would be traveling all the way to the fallopian tube, it meets with the egg that has been released by the ovary. Now the sperm and the egg have meted and fused together to form a cell that is called as, what do we call that? After
Zygote.
this zygote is formed, right? So zygote further will travel, it will travel down that fallopian tube. Okay, no? The zygote will now travel down the fallopian tube. This is the ovary, suppose, and here the fertilization has occurred. Now this is zygote. So zygote will now travel down the fallopian tube. As it will be traveling down the fallopian tube, its cells of the zygote will start to multiply. The number of cells in the zygote starts to increase. It becomes a multicellular. It becomes a multicellular thing. Okay, now so cells are increasing, and further, when it reaches the uterus, so it has now reached its embryonic stage. Basically, okay, now it has reached its embryonic stage. So the number of cells in this one has increased now. Now this one is now being called as an embryo. So embryo is embedding itself into the wall of the uterus, and from here it will receive the nourishment and will grow further. That is the case. Okay. So pregnancy will become at the point of fertilization only in the case. Getting it? So this is a quite complex process that involves many steps for the egg and the sperm basically. Okay. So where the sperm and egg is uniting to form a zygote, which then develops into an embryo, and it implants itself into the wall of the uterus and starts obtaining nourishment from this and will eventually become a new organism. Right. Um, you guys answer one question to me, that how is genetic variation observed in the case of humans? Like any human child is not identical to their parents. Why is it so? It is not completely identical to either of the parents. Yeah, continue.
The child cannot like actually be very identical to the parents, can be,
Mhm.
because they have the
Sorry for holding
same.
you. Sorry for holding you for a minute. After this,
Mm.
Ibrahim, I'm going to ask you about the sex determination. Okay, now we have discussed that in the chapter Age of Adolescence. So you have to explain to me about sex determination. So quickly revise that, Ibrahim. Okay. Yeah.
Because like they have um the genetics of both the parents,
Good.
so the just don't might look like one of the parents, but the mixture of them.
Good. So as we know that every cell in the body have got chromosomes. There are total 46 chromosomes in any given cell in the body, except for the sperm and the ovum cells, right now. So total 46 chromosomes are found in the muscle cells, in the hair cells, or in any cells in the body, except for the gamete cells. And in the basically in the chromosomes, we have the DNA, and DNA has the genes basically. So all of these are the genetic material that a cell holds in it. Now, when we take a look at the sperm cells, in the head of the sperm, it has the nucleus, right now. Nucleus is found in the head of the sperm. So this nucleus has only 23 chromosomes. It has half the number of chromosomes. While this is the ovum, and that's the nucleus of the ovum. This too has 23 chromosomes, right? So 23 chromosomes are from the male parent and 23 from the female parent. And during the process of fertilization, these chromosomes will be recombining. They recombine, and thereby they are now restored to 46 chromosomes. Getting it or not? So you guys tell me, the zygote, will it have 46 or will it have 23 chromosomes?
23.
Since 23,
46.
46, no? Why? Because the nucleus of both the cells have combined together, have fused together. The nucleus of the sperm and the egg have fused together to form this zygote that will have, you can take a look at this thread-like structure that is representing the chromosomes. Okay, no? So if you were to look at this animation once again, see, as the sperm would be meeting with the ovum, so thereby only the nucleus would be fusing. Nucleus of the two would be fusing. So that's the sperm cells, billions of sperm cells traveling all the way to the oviduct, that is fallopian tube. And look at the size of the ovum here. And only one of them would be managing to enter. And you know, only the head enters, not the mid part and the tail. And that too from the head, only the nucleus would be fusing. The blue structure that you see here. So the nucleus of both the cells have fused here. Getting it, Harim and Ibrahim? Okay. And both
Yeah.
of them each of them are carrying 23 chromosomes. So 23 plus 23, that is now restored to 46. Zygote, the number of cells in zygote is multiplying further, and total number of cells in this has now reached to 32. At that time, it embeds itself into the wall of the uterus. Then placenta and umbilical cord grows, and hence the child grows further.
Sir, I have a question.
Just tell me.
So, you know how it said, like, right, that the sperm that wins the sperm race
Mm-hmm.
is the baby born, right?
Yes.
But I heard in somewhere that actually it's not true, and what do you call that? Ovum is actually the one selecting a preferred sperm for the
Mm.
baby. So which one is true for
Okay.
fertilization?
Okay. Let me explain that. So it is widely said that out of millions of sperms, one of the sperm would be traveling down to the ovum, right? But we
Yeah.
are saying that it's the ovum that selects the sperm cells, right now.
Yeah,
It's the ovum that
like
selects the.
not exactly select, but like chooses the most like preferred sperm cell that is like healthy or something.
Okay, let me enlighten you guys on this topic. See, there is very like all of this occurs, like all these things are not as simple as we think. Okay, no. Let me just quickly wrap it up as other students are waiting. See, basically the egg cell here, that is the ovum. They would be releasing some chemicals. What did they release? They release some chemicals in order to attract the sperms. Getting it now?
Yeah.
So they release some chemicals called as chemoattractants. What do we call this as?
Chemo attraction.
Chemoattractants. Right? Now these chemicals will attract the sperm cells. Okay, no? So they will leave a trail, just like the ants when they walk, they leave a trail behind, no? Which the other ants would be following. So these chemicals are leaving a trail which the sperm would be using to find the egg, right? And the chemical signals will affect how the sperm would be behaving as they will be swimming towards the egg. And eggs may choose the sperm based on genetic compatibility and many other factors. So it is quite true uh, that the ovum has the bigger role to play here. Getting it, Harim and everyone? So egg
Yeah.
may choose sperm based on the genetic compatibility on and other factors. If some sperm cells have some deformity in this, many times the egg might not choose it. Okay, no? So it's
So
quite complex and interesting. Yeah,
so is it so in the end what is like this ovum is choosing the sperm, right?
exactly. Okay, no?
Okay.
It is correct to say that the ovum is choosing the sperm and not the sperm.
Okay.
Okay, that is the case. Okay, okay, okay. That's it for today's class then. All right. Allah Hafiz to both of you.
Allah